Hello, hello. It's the first time I'm going live on my laptop. It's like there's this whole dashboard. I'm like, wow, so professional. Hey, how are you? If you are popping in here, say hi, drop your name, drop where you're coming in from. I am here from Mexico, Puerto Escondido, Oaxaca, for now, and we'll get into that. I'm Canadian, and I haven't been back to my hometown in over 3 years since my sister's wedding, when I was there for 4 days and stayed in a tent. So I have to go back now to renew my passport because it is expiring at the beginning of June. And I'm going to tell you the story of booking my flights, whole drama around it, while I put some makeup on, and break down the polarity integration of how our needs for certainty and uncertainty are either creating conflict or bringing us deeper into the integration of our soul essence. So let's bring it back to when I went to Florida to visit my mom the beginning of February. I went for a week, and at that time, there's a lot of uncertainty in my life with my relationship with my partner, with where we're living, with finances, with work, with I'd say those are the main categories, and we've kind of been in this place of uncertainty in those categories for like the better part of a year since we left Canada, when I'd spent 2 years really like going against all of my impulses to uproot my life so that I could create stability and certainty. More backstory, I used to be a flight attendant, so it was very normal for me to be on call, so like no control over my schedule, in multiple different time zones across multiple different countries, like working all hours of the day and night. So my system kind of optimized for uncertainty, and I liked it. There's deeper roots of that for sure in my childhood, but we're going to keep it there for now. So when I went to visit my mom, I felt this like wash of relief from all of the certainty, because my mom was a very, very predictable routine life. Like, there's not really too much surprise. They went to this bungee yoga class the other day, and it was like the most exciting thing ever. And so when I got back from this trip in Florida, the customs officer stamped my passport for my visa in Mexico, and I told them I was planning to stay till the end of May because my passport expires in June. They only gave me to the end of March, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna need to come up with a faster plan for what I'm gonna do to renew my visa and also renew my passport. We'd been talking about like different options of doing it at the embassy, or taking a trip together to Canada, or living there for a while potentially, or going to Canada quickly and then going to Costa Rica for the next visa run, because Envision was going on and my partner is a chef. He was going to cook for the festival and volunteers. So all of these different possibilities are flying around, which there's always all of those possibilities flying around us in any moment, right? We live under the illusion of certainty, of this is kind of crazy doing makeup on my laptop, of like, we wake up in the morning, have our breakfast, have our morning drink, go to our workout, go to our work all day, like have dinner, sleep in the same bed, like all these things, right? Like, but any moment, as we like have been seeing more and more and more since COVID times in 2020, like the systems and structures around us that we have been programmed to rely on for a sense of certainty can shift at any moment. And so, because we've been conditioned to operate in these systems and structures of certainty so much, and we also have the need for uncertainty, we'll like create drama where it doesn't benefit anyone to have that like excitement of uncertainty stirred up. But then when there's actual uncertainty and we're in, like, we've jumped off the ledge of an expansion edge and evolution into, you know, this can be like you launch a new program, you invite more people into an existing program, you're having a lot more money, responsibility, children, next progression in a relationship, like marriage, like all of these things, all these expansion edges where it's like uncertain, like what's going to change, what's going to be the new normal, how am I going to feel? You know, we never really know until we're in the moment, like what reality is going to take form from the infinite possibility collapsing into a shared experience. So really, the whole programming behind having very conditioned, predictable, monotonous, autopilot, routine lives is so that we don't venture into a lot of uncertainty where our greatest expansion, our greatest freedom, our greatest creativity exists. So our nervous systems get used to being in these predictable grooves. When we come into a place of uncertainty, there's a big expansion, and the system's recalibrating to how to relate to itself, right? It's like, where am I in these circumstances? Because we've been conditioned to outsource our sense of safety, our sense of worth to the external world. And then when that comes in question, it's like, what? Freak out. And oh yeah, getting back to my flight booking story. Essentially, I was going to book a flight to go back to Canada. And after getting this visa date that was unexpected, and I wanted my partner to come with, but he's a Mexican citizen, and this was in the middle of all of the cartel bullshit going on. And so even when that isn't going on, the government of Canada has just made it very, very difficult for Mexicans to visit the country recently in terms of like documentation, legislator approval process, like all of these things. So he's going through that process. He's like, just wait, like I'm gonna buy our tickets, like I'm gonna figure this out. I'm like, I feel like I should get mine now because I know that I need to leave the country in this state, and like flights are just gonna get more and more expensive. But I was just kind of waiting for him because he asked me to. And then it got to a point this week where I'm like, hey, it's like 2 weeks away. Like, I can't wait for you anymore. And he's like, yeah, you're right. Just book your flight and then hopefully I'll get approved. He's still waiting to, the last piece that he needs for his application is submitting a photo. And so I went through this whole process of like, I needed to update my banking information because I hadn't used that card that I used online in a long time. I didn't have access to the email or the phone number that was associated with the account. And I also, anyways, yeah, so this is hard to do. I find it really challenging to multitask doing like makeup and talking at the same time. So shout out to all the blue beauty gurus who like have mastered this. What was I saying? Oh yes, so eventually I called the bank, I got my stuff sorted. They wanted to validate my ID. Hello, Rocket. I'm going on about my story of booking my flights and like how the need for certainty and uncertainty get integrated in our nervous system. Cheers. Better water coming soon, right? So where was I? Yeah. Eventually they asked for my driver's license. I'm like, well, I can give you it, but it's not the one you're gonna have on file because I'm a digital nomad and like I said, like a lot of uncertainty and live in different spaces, different areas, different provinces, different countries. And so anyways, what they needed from me was not compatible with what I had. So I had to get on a call. I needed to email them, finally get it sorted. I go to book the flight with my debit card and it doesn't get approved because I had tried to do a couple transactions before and they were blocked. So I had to again like be like, hey, what's up, can you unblock my account? I used my mom's card in the meantime, and then finally then there's like a system error with her card. She approved it. Finally I got my flight booked, and immediately when I got my flight booked, my whole system just like settled and recalibrated. And in that moment, it's like all of these possibilities that were floating around collapsed into a solid timeline. That is what certainty does in our nervous system. So where before I was kind of jumping from all of these different timelines of possibility, now I'd rooted and anchored into a certain one. Suddenly, my capacity in my nervous system to take on more uncertainty and have more clarity in my mind expanded. And it's like, yeah, obviously. But I think that sometimes when we're in these decision points at these expansion ends in these identity evolutions, we can forget how to play the game of polarity integration with certainty and uncertainty. And when we're at these potent points of quantum leaping, of shifting our frequency to anchor into a new timeline, it's this like pendulation, right? Whenever we're talking about polarity integration, it's like pendulating, and eventually the energy shifts and you are embodied, you're taking form in the new identity, in the new timeline. And so what I want to leave you with at the end of this is to take stock of what decisions are uncertain in your reality right now. What possibilities are you dwelling in? And where can you free up your nervous system capacity and your mental clarity by making those decisions, and also being aware of that conditioning that creates restriction and expansion. And by being aware of it, by being aware of what thoughts arise, what nervous system states, what sensations, what physiology shows up in our body, we can stay anchored to our vision and the chosen frequency of the timeline that we're anchoring into. That is going to have a shift on the decisions that we're making. It's like both top down and bottom up processing. I'm trying to think if I have anything else I want to say. Ooh. In my most recent podcast series, The Power Saga, for the relaunch of season 2 of the Rich Revolutionaries podcast, I go into how this like uncertainty avoidance is leveraged by leaders and business owners to motivate you externally to come into their programs. And it's a lot harder of a sell to someone that there is this like void that you're jumping into. And so how can you play consciously in integrity with the way that you are marketing your spaces to create that balanced integration of both the certainty and uncertainty of making a decision and the impacts that it's going to have on your soulmate clients. And to expand your capacity to be in uncertainty, and also to collapse those possibilities into form, into certainty, to be able to pendulate back and forth, to be in this dance between the two needs. I'm going to invite you into my audacious offer, which is a 3-week one-to-one voice memo mentorship inside of Telegram, where we'll choose one desire and one relationship to shift into more of your erotic embodiment, to bring all of the taboo parts of your story out from your shadow and allow yourself to be seen in your genius, which is your story alchemized, and the charges between your identity, your ego, who you think you are, and your soul essence, and how to leverage that to create New Earth business architecture inside of your business, which is rooted on a foundation of genuine relationship and soul resonance. So hop in my DMs if that is something that is interesting to you, is calling you forward, if you're wanting to expand your capacity to be with uncertainty and certainty, because sometimes we can be so, conditioning works both ways. Maybe you've been more of someone that has had a very rigid, certain experience in like corporate or strict family, or maybe you're someone who grew up in more of a chaotic household where there was a lot of instability, and that's something that your nervous system is trying to recreate. Wherever you are, I'll meet you right there, and we'll activate your audacious frequency to root into your authentic power. Okay, that is all for now. Until next time.